All right, recording
Good.
has started.
Okay. Thank you, Albert. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our first meeting for the 24-25 school year. Just to kind of gauge the audience, if you would put your name and your district in the chat. Um, th this meeting is being recorded, and once it's converted for YouTube, it will be posted to our webpage. We have okay, good morning and good morning, good morning. Um, I know we've also had a lot going on. So the second task that I'm going to ask you to do is just to kind of help me gauge with how you're feeling with all that's going on. One word to describe your current mood or state of mind, if you will. I feel you, Joan. I feel you. Yeah. Overwhelmed. Okay, okay. Wow. It is a lot. It is a lot. Yes, Wendy, very hopeful, stressed. I feel that too. I feel all those things. Um, so we know that there's still a lot going on with the data migration and integration into our new system. So we're just going to talk a little bit about the things that we still have pending from the 23-24 data reporting year, just to kind of wrap those things up. Just trying to work from the standpoint of the things that we can control. So we're just going to talk a little bit about wrapping up the indicator 8 and indicator 14. We're going to talk a little bit about the table 8 MOE and CEIS report, the new for the upcoming, as well as the pending from last school year. We're going to talk about well, we're not really going to talk about child count because we can't really do that until the system's up and running. Just to kind of gauge the audience for your ed plan and where things are with you in your district. And of course, closing out those 5 reports from the 23-24 school year, and just any announcements, and then our contact information. Okay, so the parent involvement survey, I sent an email out a couple of weeks ago. Not sure if you guys read it or not, but we had to revamp our survey sampling list. We're actually in the process of updating our survey sampling plan so that we can get it approved by the federal government, but we are actually updating the information, and we're updating the information as we go. So with that, in the current format, we had about 50,000 students reporting for the parent survey for the 23-24 school year. So we had to go in and adjust some districts. And with that, so we're actually sent out almost 20,000 emails to the parents that had email addresses in the file. So we're just gauging that to see how many of those parents respond before we send the postcards out. And so those emails were emailed on Thursday, July 7th. Which actually shut my system down. So I wasn't able to do anything because I had reached my quota for sending emails, um, which is something I didn't know, but nonetheless, we don't now. So what we're asking is for those districts that are listed for the 23-24 reporting year to send email notifications or news blasts within your districts, social media posts letting the parents know that there is a legitimate postcard or email, and to complete those that information. One of the areas that we struggle with as a state is representativeness. And so the parents' responses has to be representative of the student population that we serve. So we do ask for your assistance in obtaining the demographics information, and which is included in the survey link. But we just need them to fill it in so that we are assured that our parents' responses are representative of the students' population that we serve. Um, so with that, on August 1st, we're going to send out postcards to those families that have not responded to the email or completed a survey within the district as a part of the school year. And then all the surveys will close on August 31st. These are the districts that we're asking for your support on in sending information to help us obtain that information for the parents' response, survey responses. Okay. For the 24-25 reporting year, these are the districts that we will be focusing on for the 24-25 reporting year. We do not have a date or a concrete process in place just yet. Still brainstorming on that, but we're hoping that the survey will be open sometime in September. What we don't want is to have two surveys open at the same time. That would probably confuse folks. So we're going to wait until the 23-24 survey is closed before we open the 24-25 survey. Our processes will be a little different because in the current state ed plan did not bring over the process that we had in Enrich for completing the surveys or parents receiving the notifications to complete the survey at the conclusion of an annual or an initial IEP. The next agenda item is the indicator 14 opt-in bonus points. Right now, the survey window we're scheduled to close for the opt-in districts on July 31st. On August 1st, we'll send the file for the non-opt-in districts along with anyone that the opt-in districts were not able to get in touch with. We'll send that file to the vendor on August 1st. The response rate must be at least 50% in order for those opt-in districts to get the one bonus point. And on the email update that I sent on yesterday, I did include whether or not you have the one bonus point. So if you look at that summary sheet that I provided, the second to last column will indicate if you have at least 50% as an opt-in district to receive your bonus point. And as once again, the formula for the response rate, it is the ones that that responded not applicable. Those are actually the survey's responses. So the 3 attempts or the did not want to participate, those responses are not included into the response rates. The MOE and CEIS report is actually due on October 11th. Remember, this is an Excel spreadsheet based on the students that you provided services to for CEIS. And the other part is whether or not you met maintenance of efforts, but the finance team will be working with you on obtaining whether the information for meeting maintenance of efforts. My piece or our data piece is centered around the number of students that you provided services to and whether or not you voluntarily set aside funds for CEIS. And just remember, if you used IDEA funds, then you should have students attached to that count. And you can't, if you didn't use IDEA funds, then you should report 0. I know that there are some districts that have a different means of providing those early intervention services, and that is perfectly fine. But if IDEA funds were used, then you should have students attached to those funds. Okay. We are also in the process of closing out the 23-24 report. So for those districts that I have questions, not a whole lot, but there are a few that reported that they set aside funds but didn't have any students attached to it. So we're going to need clarification on that. And then there are some districts that reported they had students, but they didn't have any funds attached to it. So we just need the two to align. Okay. I wish I had more information to tell you about child count and the LRE environment. With the environment, um, the LRE is now called environment in the Ed Plan system. So I'm going to struggle a little bit with change of terminologies as we get acclimated to this new system. So I do ask that you guys bear with us. You guys probably know more about the system than we do because we don't have access just yet. So we are relying on your support, your expertise to tell us kind of what's going on within the system so that we can kind of get a heads up on it. I do have a calendar. I have not shared it yet just because we don't really know what the process is going to be. So we're delaying on releasing that calendar. Just think of what we did last year, the calendar as we published last year. That's kind of like the running thing, but I don't want to release it if we have to make changes based on access to the system. I do know that there will be some process changes, so I don't know what that is. So before I start giving out any information about it, I'd rather hold off on that until we have a clear, solid process and plan in place. Okay, I do operate on the side of grace, which is why you haven't heard a whole lot from me because I do know that it's been challenging for some districts to get through this process. So we do operate on the side of grace. You do have an advocate here for the districts. The team will tell you that whatever we do, we think about the impact of the district first before we make any decisions, understanding that there are some things that are outside of our control, but we do try to be as lenient as possible. The only thing I can tell you right now is that the child count date is October 22nd, and that will be based on students enrolled in receiving services in your district as of that day. We do know that there's a lag. So if you're planning meetings for students in your districts, I would urge you to be proactive about getting those students in on the PowerSchool side so that by the time you have your meeting or you're ready for your meeting, your students' information has gone through that process of obtaining a son's ID number and making it to the EdFi system ultimately, which is where the Ed Plan system is pulling from. It's pulling from the state's ODS. So it's a process to get there. So we just need to make sure that districts are aware that there's a process to get to the Ed Plan system. And so the sooner you know of students coming into your district, the better it is to get that process started. I was going to say something, I forgot. Hopefully I'll remember by the time this call is over. Ed Plan. Once again, we do know that there are issues. Oh, that I remember now. Guys, I don't know what type of relationship you have in your districts with your PowerSchool coordinators, but in order for this process to work, you're going to have to rely on them, increase your communication. You will see in communications coming out in the future, a united effort for between OSIS and the order team, which is where the PowerSchool team lives. You will see a united message, one voice, one sound. So the quicker, if you're experiencing anything as it pertains to demographic issues or if the grade levels is off, that is actually happening because your PowerSchool rollover has not happened yet. Or if the updated information is not in your EdFi system, which is ultimately where the Ed Plan data is being pulled from. So that is because the EdFi information has not been published. I do know that there was a call yesterday with the PowerSchool coordinators talking about this process and the frequency in which the information needs to be updated so that it could get to you guys. So if you're not familiar with the process, I urge you to talk with I don't know who on the data managers are actually the power user for the district, but if you are a data manager and you are not the power user, I urge you to establish a relationship with the power user for your district as well as your Power School coordinator, because that is the source of the foundation of where all of this is going to filter through to get to. If you're having some issues and you're not 100% certain of what that issue is or who you should contact, go ahead and submit a ticket through EdPlan Zendesk. Ultimately, they will be able to assist you or point you in the right direction. Once again, we are working on closing out data collection and reporting reports for your COAS, your discipline data, the exiting indicators 11 and 12. This will be a twofold process, simply because we no longer have access to the Enrich for editing purposes. So all of the corrections for your final report will have to be done in our Excel spreadsheets, and you guys are kind of used to that process. Once EdPlan is up and running, students that had evaluations or there's a cleaning process that's going to happen because of the systems not being available to update your information. So definitely for 11 and 12 students who had evaluations after your system went dark, you'll have to go into EdPlan and update that information. But you can't do that until your data is fully migrated and integrated into the system. So talk to your Power School person, talk to your power user person for your district, align processes, get familiar. They don't know what you guys are responsible for and vice versa. So there is a degree of communication as well as a learning curve, you know what I mean? So it's going to take cooperation on both parts to get through this process. For the discipline report, thank you. I did want to send a huge thank you out to those districts who provided feedback to us and helping us get this tool squared away. Albert has been diligently working on it, and Yolanda has been testing the data. So we do thank you guys for all of your feedback. Allowing us to use your data to help us determine if it's working accurately. Through your feedback, we've had a meeting with Aveen on the Power School side, the incident management reporting, and so she's appreciative of your feedback as well, because it's definitely going to help us have better data for our reports. And so once we're done with this, we're actually going to provide you with an updated copy, so just so that you'll have at your fingertips to a tool to use to help gauge and guide you in how your data looks. But we are actually doing the report, and once it's completed, we will provide a final copy in ADT for your review. That's about all that I have that I can concretely share. I would like to open the floor to see what type of things that you guys have problems that you have seen or come across, just to kind of get a feel for what's happening, because we don't have it, so we don't, nor do we. Well, I won't be able to say that anymore, because we will be able to see what you see once we get access to the system. So Albert, if you could take folks off mute and just give folks an opportunity to share what type of experiences they've
I'm looking
had.
for that for the option, and something's going on Teams that's just not
It's
showing
not
me. Yeah, can you
okay.
check the either the chat window or the people,
Okay.
see if you can allow.
Well, okay. I'll take care of that.
I'm able to unmute, so everybody might be able to.
Okay. So yeah, if you guys can unmute yourselves and share. Let's see. So as far as Jenny, as far as the SSI school is concerned, we have not shared any additional information. The guidance that we're operating under is still what was provided during last school year, the Q&A that was sent out to the districts. Yes, if you have questions, Katie is our point of contact for anything as it pertains to transition. So she's been handling the bulk of all the communication as it pertains to the SSI school, Power School. She has been our voice, our face for this process. So definitely reach out to her. Andrea, Yolanda, one of you guys can put Katie's contact information in the chat. That would be helpful. But it, once again, SSI schools, start with your Power School person and ask them about the process. I do know that one of the restraints that formerly lived or existed for the SSI school as it pertains to whether or not that information was going to flow into the EdFi system, that has been lifted. So once everything is up and running, you should see the SSI student coming through as well. And I do see Nicole has her hand raised.
I do. Hey, Carolyn.
Hey, how are
So
you?
if we're not able to get child count, I've kind of been holding on my questions about data and being able to pull reports from EdPlan, just because I know that there's a lot of things that need to come before that. But if we're not able to pull child count, does that also mean basically all other reports? Are we going to have report pulling capability from EdPlan anytime soon? And any kind of training on it?
Um, um, so we feel you there. Our backup plan for child count is really just being able to get a full roster report from the Ed Plan system of the data that came over from Enrich, and have districts to verify that way. But from what I understand, they're waiting until the data is in the system to create the reports. As I understand, there are some reports that are in there. You may not be able to see it just yet, or it may not be functioning properly because all the students are not flowing over just yet, but they're supposed to have some district level reports in there for you to run, test things, and see how things are going. But we'll see. We're hopeful. We're hopeful over here. We're hopeful.
Is there any version of an ETA?
No, no,
All right,
not yet.
thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Anybody else would like to share?
Carolyn,
Yes.
as far as SSI is concerned, I know about the going over to Power School, but you said a few calls ago that the walk-ins and our adult ed kids were supposed to go back to their home school instead of SSI and be coded EEI. Are we supposed to do that this year?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So the
Yes.
only kids that should be in SSI are the kids are young non-school age that are being evaluated, correct?
So that's going to look a little muddy. If the kids are currently in SSI school, unless they're going in, based on what I've seen, what they don't want is to muddy the waters. So if the kids are in an SSI school, and you know what I mean, like, you don't have to go back and say, oh, I have to get all these kids attached. Phase it in, phase it in. So when you're doing their annual IEP, and if you know what brick and mortar school they should be attached to, you can update that information at that time. But they don't want you to have to go back and say, oh, I need to go and change all of this right now. That's a kind of change as you go, if you will. Does that make sense?
It does. Thank you.
You're welcome.
The private schools are also supposed to be in the SSI school as well, correct?
Correct. But the private school goes, yeah. So that along with the SSI process is the same. Even though they may be attending a private school, if you know the the brick and mortar school that they would normally be enrolled in, go ahead and put them there and attach them to as an EEI and just let it flow. Just let it flow. But if you don't know, the SSI school is definitely your go-to. It's your fallback. It's your catch-all. Nikki, I see Nikki's hand is raised.
You already got me. Thanks.
Okay, sure.
SSI.
Okay, Karen.
If we want to leave them in the SSI school, the private school students, can we do that? Because I don't see how they're going to be separated for people who aren't looking for the EEI codes. Like, I think people who are working with them won't know to look for them in their home school.
That would be, once again, that's going to be a communication. It's going to rely heavily on communication, but it's fine to leave them there. If that's where they are right now, it's
is.
perfectly fine. You know what I mean? Just as we grow and as we morph, just know that there's a possibility that new communication, new guidance may come out that changes that. But I'll definitely keep you guys posted. So minimal stress is what we're aiming for right now. So if that's where they are, leave them there.
Okay, great. Thanks so much.
You're
Hope
welcome.
you're doing well.
Yes, thank you. Do they need to enroll to change from the SSI? No, if they're in the SSI school, if that's where they are, you can leave them there. You don't have to, like I said, minimal traction right now is what we're striving for. This process has morphed into something bigger than anticipated. So there are a lot of kinks that has to be worked out in the process. And so we're operating under minimal movement until we know with certainty the guidance that needs to happen. You say, can we get something for this in an email to share with our PowerSchool staff? PowerSchool team, your PowerSchool team is aware. I can assure you that your PowerSchool folks in your district is aware of what's going on. You may want to just go and talk with them just to have a formal process in place as far as expectations from your view, Sonia, just to kind of get acclimated with their processes. And so if there is something in your communication that's going to pose a problem, then you would basically send that back to us or Katie, and we can talk about it. But that is a hot topic on the floor right now. It's just streamlining the process between the PowerSchool side, the EdFi ODS process, and the information getting to the LEAs. It is a huge topic of discussion right now. And so they are aware that there is great concern or pause, if you will, because of the unknowns. So the only way that we're going to work through it is to know what's going on. So communicate. Join forces with your PowerSchool person. Go ahead, Jenny.
I need to talk about the SSI school again. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
I understand it's kind of like working the kinks out, but and maybe I'm just the only one in this situation, and other people can chime in and point me in the right direction where this might be in writing or give me something. But we're putting all BabyNet, all private school, all adult ed, which I understand is okay. But where I run into an issue with my PowerSchool coordinator is if a special ed kid is transferring into us, she will not let us enroll that child at their elementary school so that they will show up in ed plan, so that we can request records, so that we can do IEP, ... She will not let us put them in PowerSchool until, quote, I see that whites of their eyes and they are ready to start school that day in the building. So that puts a big kink in our process. And as a workaround, she's having us put them all into the SSI school. And then we have to transfer them out and then give access to everyone to SSI. And it's just really messy. So I was wondering if anyone had any suggestions or guidance on that.
Have you talked with Katie yet about that process?
No, but if Katie could help me, I would love to talk about Katie.
Let her know what obstacle you're facing, and then she could bring it up in their meeting when they're talking about these processes. Yeah, just send her an email so that she can put it on the radar.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. I'm not sure about the NDLA dates. I will find out about that and send it back. Nicole, when you say will this be covered again, you're talking about the SSI or the Ed Plan? Exactly which process are you referencing?
Well, and in general, just, I know you cover data reporting in NDLA, but it's going to look
Different.
It's going to be different with Ed Plan. And if we have new staff, we need all of this covered.
Okay. 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 Are we good on questions? Does anyone else have any questions before I move on? Okay, good. Thank you guys for your feedback and your input. It's going to help us. As always, our meetings will be on the third Thursdays at 10 o'clock. Feel free to share. My stance is going to be share this with anyone who has anything to do with SPED data collection and reporting. It's always good for them to hear the information for themselves. Sometimes folks have problems, or it may not necessarily get to the person that it needs to be. There's no harm in them attending or listening to the calls. I'm perfectly fine with it. As far as who will receive the communication, we will be sending the communication based on what's in DEEMS, and that's going to go to the SPED directors, the secondary contact, and the data reporting manager. So if you are not attached to one of those three roles, then most likely you will not be getting the information from me. So I will share, I will do another download and share that list again so that districts will know who's listed as the SPED data manager within the districts. The transfer of records process has been shifted over to Katie, so she's handling that. If you have questions about student transfers, that communication is going to be coming from Katie Heiss as well. I did want to talk to you guys a little bit about the profiles and the data component for your points on your profiles and exactly what we'd be using. And so it's twofold. So we have something that's called timely and accurate submissions. And so basically when you submit to us the LEA files that's associated with your 618 data, which is basically your child count, your personnel report, the exiting data. You don't have to submit the discipline data to us anymore, but essentially your discipline data. You are ensuring that it is timely and accurate. And so when we are looking at valid and reliable, can the data be used in a manner in which it was collected? So if the answer is yes, then you get your points for your point for timely and accurate, and then you get your points for valid and reliable. And so essentially, that's what's going to make up the points on your determinations. I said profiles, on your determinations for data collection and reporting, which ultimately is performance factor 1. I'm sorry, compliance factor 1. And so this is the criteria that we're going to be using for that. I will say something for you guys to think about whenever you have issues with your data and it is discovered after the fact that that data is wrong or there's issues with that data, we definitely need to have a conversation about valid and reliable, having valid and reliable data and just what type of impact that's going to have on your LEA. Because if the data is deemed not valid and reliable, that's going to impact a lot of your report. And just to give you some insight as to what I'm talking about, let's take Table 5, for instance. And we know that someone is in this situation already. Their data was not corrected. And we know right now that they have some issues on their discipline data. They did not make a Beans timeline. So that district technically would be deemed not valid and reliable. Having not valid and reliable data impacts your indicator 4. It's going to impact your significant disproportionality. And if it impacts significant disproportionality, that means that you'd be required to set aside 15% of your funds. So just kind of thinking about the implications of having not valid and reliable on your data. But once again, we are a work in progress. So if you have any issues or if you foresee any issues, let's have a conversation about it sooner rather than later so that we could put some things in place so that you are getting your credit for valid and reliable data. Okay. All right. What we are doing, we're going to share this on all of our calls. Where we're putting all of the resources for you for data collection and reporting. And so this is the same Google Drive that was shared back in November when we met in person. We're just going to continue to add information resources here for you guys. So you always have a constant place to go if you want to see anything. The report, the PowerPoint for today's meeting will be placed in here as well as on the drive. We just want to make sure that you have information readily available. You know where to go when it comes time for determinations, that, you know, when you have questions about methodology, different things like that, you know exactly where to go to get that information. We also have the connectors guides out there that has examples embedded into the methodology to help assist you. We are going to actually update that connectors guide to include the formulas and examples for the determinations as well. So we're going to update that and provide that information to you. Something else to think about is we still have Performance Factor 7 out there, which is the early childhood. We know that right now it's still a gimme. And so we're planning to have some conversations about that, hopefully October, November, about what options to use that would give meaningful information to the districts to use on their determination. So just kind of think about those things. I'm going to put a plug. My stance would be to use the COAST and break it up so that districts could get points for each of those categories, a half a point for each of those categories versus an all or nothing. But, you know, it's still up for discussion or conversation. So just kind of think about what we could do for that. Before we move on, can we get the link in the chat, please? Sure. Team, if one of you guys can put the link in the chat, that would be great. I don't like this, but we have a new agency PowerPoint template. And so in order for us to put contact information, we also have to add pictures. So this is our contact information. Feel free to call us, email us with any questions that you may have. Once again, we know that this is a work in progress. We are here to support you. So whatever you're feeling, whatever issues you have, if you need us to help you get in touch with somebody, even though we may not have any answers, but we will do our best to support you through this process and help you to help ensure that you have a successful year, despite all the chaotic stuff that will happen. So if there are no other questions, thank you. Yolanda just added the link in the chat. We're going to hang on for a few minutes just in case anybody have any questions that they want to ask us. Otherwise, you guys enjoy the rest of your day and have an awesome school year.
You want me to go ahead and stop the recording, Carolyn?
Yes.
Okay.